Great.
Okay, great.
Okay. So Maddie, this is the recording we'll want to put onto the website.
Okay.
Okay, so welcome, friends. We know we're getting a little shaky technology start here, but we're very happy to have the BLOC Deputy Director with us, Keisha Robinson. And I know some other people will be coming in later. They probably had trouble finding us, but we'll see how it goes. Keisha, do you want to start by telling us a little bit about the work and how you and I met?
So, well, I'll start how we met for the Madison Advocacy Action Day, which I have always heard of your name around. I see it in emails all the time and everything. So I felt like I knew you already. I want to also give a disclaimer. I'm in Phoenix for work, and I'm not sure if the internet is spotty. If you could please let me know. And then I may just have to cut off the picture part.
Sure.
So yeah, I started. So that's how I actually met Pat in person. We went to the Madison Advocacy Action Day with Faith in Place, and myself and I would say about 21 of the ambassadors came, and we learned about the topics were social justice and climate change and things like that. And the ambassadors, like, still right now want to learn more about climate change and everything, because I will say, you know, when you get caught up in your work, especially the work your mission is specifically into, you know, some things you don't have a lot of knowledge about. And so I see a lot of ambassadors now, they're looking up like climate change. And then we even had a discussion because we debriefed the event. And so many of them were interested and said that they didn't know that it affected us like that. And so they want to learn more. We all do. And I was thankful for that. We all were thankful for that. We even had, because as I said, 21 of the ambassadors came, but we had about 15 of them that went to another event. And so they were all like, okay, we wish we would have came. We wanted to learn more. So that was very dope. And yeah, so that's that. And since then, I've been learning different things about climate change. Like, I had a general understanding, but I didn't know a lot of the things that we put into the environment and plays a big part. So it was overwhelming in a good way. And so how I got started at BLOC, I am the deputy director for BLOC, and I started as an organizer. If you read the story that Pat shared in the email, I think just because one part of life I came to just being directly affected, all the issues that we're fighting for, the voting rights, voter education, and everything. I was that person at home with a lot of kids that didn't think that it applied to me. And I think that's why I'm so passionate in my role now. So just rewind back, back in the days, I didn't participate in voting a lot. I didn't think it mattered to me. And I always thought of voter education as just something that's just like, okay, leave it to the politicians. And I'm now learning that even though we're not all political, our lives is all, you know, based around politics. And so learning that, it makes me more dedicated into the work. But stepping back, people will come to my door, and, you know, all I'm focused on is raising my kids and working. I have 9 children, 8 of them which were boys. And I was doing it all on my own. Their dad, you know, differences, we left or whatever. And so now it begins the living aspect of things. And so I remember when people would come to my door like, okay, well, we want to do voter education and things like that. I really thought that it did not apply to me. I thought that I would leave it to politicians, that it did make a difference. In local elections, I never even knew they applied to me. I didn't know that they were important. I thought my understanding back then was very naive, and I thought that, okay, those really don't mean a lot. I was more aware of the presidential every 4 years. And so that was a problem in itself. And so how I got into the work is because I was faced with a lot of issues and I was mad about them. I was upset about them, from schooling, from how the neighborhoods, from elected officials come in when it was voting time. They're like, yeah, you know, being the nicest person that gave me the most hope when I did talk to them, then from fast forward, this same elected official, like maybe a year later, act like they never even visited that neighborhood or know about those issues, and that's hurtful. And so that's kind of how I got to start. I used to kind of like do a little things with 9 to 5 on working families and things, and then I came to BLOC as an organizer. And so that was in 2017 when I came to BLOC. And I remember I came in November and it was very, very cold. And I'm like, organizing, okay, we'll see. And that I did not know how much that everything aligned with the issues I've been through, everything. And so I became an organizer and I moved to the program director in about a year and a half and then to deputy director. But if you read the story, BLOC started out with 5 organizers and no ambassadors, no foot program. It just involved us organizers going door to door, covering as much as we can in 53206 and just hearing those issues in order for us to be able to move forward and be effective in the work. And so I remember thinking that after like a month, still, I'm a month in, and I'm like, I don't think that I can do this. I'm overwhelmed. I already have issues at home, and I don't think, I can do this. And I remember, like I tell this story, I met an older lady at the door, and she just completely gave up. And I'm like, okay, I guess it was meant for me to see that because I myself had in the mind frame like, okay, this doesn't apply to me. I don't think I should do this work. And this lady told me at the door, and she was a little older, and she said that I fought the fight, and I appreciate what you do, and I hope that you make ground, but I don't want any parts. And I remember saying, whoa, just like that. And then I also remember like, what if all our people thinking like that, especially Black and brown people who, have a history of their votes being suppressed and things like that. And so I, I was like, whoa, all the rest of that day, I said, this lady, she essentially just gave up. And I was having those thoughts. And I was like, I can't, it's a better purpose. And then so I stayed, I stuck with it, trying to reach more people. And I was thinking, like, okay, what if we had more people out here doing the work? I realized that the north side of Milwaukee, it has a lot of issues because they are directly affected, and it's a lot of um, I guess, hindrances of daily living, I should put it. And so I figured if we have more people out here doing the work, talking to people, people just need to get reached like I did. And so we came up with the ambassadors program. We started with about 15 ambassadors. We gave them training. They still knocked doors and they did what the organizers did. They listened to issues. They put out messaging and everything. But we realized, like, what would it be since they're getting these trainings if we go a little bit more intensive with the training, give them, training for a few months, and then what would it be like for them to train the next group of persons, but more? Since it's 19 of them, maybe they can train about 30 or double. And so that's what we did, and that's kind of how we came with the ambassadors program. Yes, they are canvassers, but like as Angela, our executive director, says, they're canvassers on steroids, and she said that because they're like super canvassers. They have more deeper training on the issues and politics and things, and we teach them as we learn it. Because things change every day in the political world, and so these are things we have to step back and explain to them and break it down. And so that's our ambassadors program, and then they have certain knowledge. So when the new ambassadors come on, they train them, and it becomes this domino effect of going out into the communities and people hearing our stories. And I will say we do get a lot of people, a lot of contacts and things like that. We do have people that we have been corroborating with since day one. We have just one ambassador who has almost 200 contacts alone, and these are people that he called and he are engaged with. And so just I think that's how we made a big difference in the neighborhood. Also going into communities and neighborhoods that people think they have no hope, and figuring out what we can do. So I'll stop there, just in case if y'all want to ask any questions, and then I can give a little bit about. I just go deeper into how we do the voter education.
Keisha, thank you. Well, I will jump in. So there was a group that invited me to join them, and it was called Faith in Place.
Mhm.
And they congregated at the block office. And maybe Keisha can give us the address, but it's right in the 06 neighborhood. And I'll tell you candidly, as my husband drove me there, he was saying, whoa, I hadn't seen a neighborhood in such disrepair in quite a while. Like somehow he hadn't driven through '06 or specifically up to the church where you have your office. And I felt a little embarrassed that he made this statement. And then I thought, you know, white supremacy, you can avoid seeing the hardship that
Yeah.
people are dealing with daily, the closed up buildings. And then it was great. We got together. Okay, she's got her address here. So the address is 3500 North 26th Street, second floor. And it's a church, right? I don't know if the church is still functioning.
Yes, it is.
Do you remember the name of your church?
The church is we're not really affiliated with them, but it's
Right.
called Greater Spring Hill Baptist Church.
Okay.
We have a
So
good relationship with them
yeah,
though.
no, I was happy to see that a church was being well used. And so
Yes.
then we all rode the bus together, went to Madison, and I saw the determination in these ambassadors. They were excited, they were ready. And we heard a variety of speakers urging us to really take more seriously what we could do. And because the state assembly or the state leaders were not in meeting, we still went over and we connected with Gwen Morse on Supreme. And he wanted to give everybody the blue book of facts of Wisconsin and to get people more involved. But it was a cold day, it was a windy day, but people were determined and the spirits were high. So I also have heard of BLOC for a long time. And I was happy to hear all this way that one teaches one, reaches one, 200 contact stays in connection with people. And it helps overcome the cynicism that I find with some of our young Black students at MATC who just look at me and tell me my vote doesn't matter. You know, the politicians, politics, it stinks. And here I saw people actively involved, overcoming the cynicism and the despair. And Keisha, I love your story, how it was another person who say, I fought the good fight, now I'm discouraged. And you said, hey, you know, I'm not going to let myself get discouraged. I will, you know, stay involved and fight the good fight or get into good trouble. So kudos to BLOC and to the work you're doing. I will say one more thing and then open up to questions. So I work also with Souls to the Polls, and Anita Johnson was so fascinated by this invitation. And she's going to try to join. She's kind of jumping between meetings, but she's going to try to join too, because your mission is very aligned with what we try to do with Souls to the Polls. So do you want to comment on other groups that BLOC feels comfortable or happy to be working with?
So Anita is on our board. Very, very lovely person. So we do work with Souls to the Polls. I know Angela so I'm a lot of the behind the scenes, but as far as the organizations in-house, I think she'll give you a better, I don't want to misspoke. So I think she'll probably she can give you a better idea of the organizations we will work with on that front.
Okay, good. So we're open to questions, and I would love to hear some other voices other than me. So please tell us what interests you about this story and what you wanted to know more. Oh, good. We have Annie back, or Ann back. Oops, in and out. I think,
Hi,
oh, there
can
you
you
are.
hear me?
Okay, good. Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so I love the personal stories. My name's Ann O'Connor. I'm actually just pulling up to the county courthouse where I was sworn in yesterday as county board supervisor. So
Yay.
so I'm super excited, but I am one of those local elected officials that really want to make a difference in our community. And the story, Keisha, that you told was so compelling because 5 years ago now, I co-founded a social justice group called Bay Bridge that has kind of gotten me on this path to becoming an elected official. but there were some people doing some racial equity work in my community of Whitefish Bay who invited me to join along as a person who they knew was a avid volunteer and organizer. And I said, I don't know if you noticed this, but I'm a white lady. I don't really see what role I have to play in racial justice. So I felt like I was called to the work once I started to learn more. And similar to what you're saying, Keisha, like, wow, I have a role to play, you know,
Yep.
like I have something to do. So that's kind of led me down this path to now, as of yesterday, being a county board supervisor. But climate and equity are two issues super, super important to me. I don't know what committees I'm going to be placed on to be able to advance this work, but I will do it in some capacity. And I feel like housing, adequate, safe, stable housing is at the core of a lot of this. And there's so much intersectionality. So I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, I have to drop off now because I have to go inside, but
Don't
I'm
drop off
here.
before we all tell you congratulations. We're
Yes.
so happy. And you have a
Thank
majority
you.
of women on the board right now. First
Yes,
time
first.
ever in Milwaukee that we have a majority of women. So thank you for being a brave woman.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm really excited about the work. And Braybridge has been part of the redress roundtable as well to redress segregation in Milwaukee, and housing is again at the core of that. So I would really love to sit down with folks. I try to show up in spaces like this also, and as many opportunities as possible to listen to people so that I can make good decisions when things come up to a vote. So before I drop off, I will put my email, my new official email in the chat. And please, please, please feel free to reach out. And thank you for creating this space for this kind of conversation.
Our pleasure, Ann.
And for all your work. BLOC is amazing. So,
BLOC is
and
amazing.
so is I see also League of Women Voters and Grassroots North Shore, all just like, this is what it has to be. It has to be all these groups coming together. So we're the local folks are really, we've got agency here in our community. So thank you.
Thank you. And Barbara Tolles, I know you just had a chance to join. Barbara, have you worked with BLOC before?
No, not really. No, I haven't.
Okay. So Barbara is a union activist from MATC and also works with SDC and addressing the issues of poverty in our community. Okay, so that was great that we got a new Zoom user. Okay. So Meg Gleason, do you want to show us your grandchild?
You know what, Pat? May I ask a question because I
Yeah.
ended up as for being late.
Yeah.
I just thought a couple things that the woman said, and I don't want to be one of these people that I hear like a little blurb and jump in. Can you tell me what she talked about? Because what I heard was, I'm a white woman. What can I do to help this racial issue? And I'm like, excuse me, that's my heard that. Excuse me, you don't know that these are issues that everybody needs to work on, not just Black people. Again, I didn't say anything because I didn't hear the beginning statement, but that was like, okay, so.
Oh, right. Sorry. That was me. That was me. And I started it by saying that was wrong thinking.
Okay.
That was me, years ago. And now that is not me. So
that you have evolved. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Yes, I've evolved.
Well, it's a work in progress, right? We make mistakes and you have to be willing to get out there and learn as you do. And one of the things the League also supports is a program called Healing Racism, One White Woman at a Time. And that program just got some awards for the work that Mary Delgado has been leading. And that's a 9-month program that will be starting again. And she treats it like a pregnancy. You start here and you go 9 months. And in those 9 months, Mary Ellen and I were in the same team together. You read several books, I think maybe 7 books throughout that time, and you journal on it and you reflect on it and you meet and you really struggle through this to get past the conditioning that we were raised with. And Barbara, I think I may have provoked Ann because, okay, thanks again, Ann. I may have provoked her because when I went to visit Keisha and BLOC in the 06 neighborhood to go to a Madison Advocacy Day, my husband said, whoa, this neighborhood is so discouraging. You know, like he had not been in the area that we just listed, which was 3500 North 26th Street. He was kind of stunned with what rough shape it was in. So, okay, Keisha, I'm going to take it back to you. So you're meeting Barbara Tolles and Renee, and I don't know if you have the ability to see the gallery view, but you're with some very fine people who are very dedicated to this effort.
Yes, I can see everyone. Something to what you just said, Pat. I wanted to offer. So your husband said that he haven't been in that park for a while. What we do at BLOC is called a silent canvas. So we invite elected officials, candidates running, and people that want to hear more and learn about the neighborhood. So we invite them to come on a silent canvas with our ambassadors. The person that comes, the visitor that comes, they can take notes if they want, but it's a silent canvas because they are supposed to be silent. So when they go door to door with the ambassadors, their job is just really to hear the issues, to hear everything that's affecting these neighborhoods, and to get a better sense of how they can help. So if that's something that you all is interested in coming down one day, any day, just let us know and we can set that up. Because a lot of people and that's the thing. Some people don't know because if they're not from that neighborhood or they don't visit them often or they don't take those ways to work or they're not familiar with that. That's why this is helpful for them to gain that type of knowledge.
That's a great program. And I like the word silent.
Yep.
Hello, political people. It's your turn to listen.
Yes.
Yeah.
We actually had Beto O'Rourke. We had a lot of famous people. We had
Yeah.
Julian Castro. He came out. I did doors with Beto, and he did really, really well. He just didn't work too good on the silent part. He kind of like he met people. He did a door without me. He was like, it was so funny because when I was done, I was still talking to the person at the door. He talked to them and he was eager to move on, right? So I met him at the next door. He was like, yeah, come on, Keisha, this is Sean. And I just bust out laughing. It was funny, but yeah. And
Other questions? Yeah, Mary Ellen and then Peggy.
I don't really have a question. I just wanted to remark that I know how important it is for voters to understand that the local elections are as important as the presidential. And when Keisha said that, I thought, yes, 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 because I was a poll worker for, just about a decade. And our local elections, we'd be sitting there doing nothing. And then, when a presidential election came up, it was just like floodgates and people voting for the first time and so forth. So it is really important. Those local elections are so important. So I appreciate you talking about that, Keisha.
And it's so interesting because that's one of the things that we are constantly informing people about how the local elections pertain to them and their sustainability. Like we let them know who to contact, like how to be in touch with their alderman for neighborhood issues and things like that. And some people, are so grateful for that. So yeah, local elections definitely matter.
Yeah. Peggy and then Barbara.
I was just wondering, we grapple with what kind of messaging is effective in getting people who don't usually vote to come out and vote. And Keisha, I'm wondering what you have found, what works, what doesn't work.
I think in the beginning, so that's kind of how we engage people with the the issues, tying them to the local elections. So we let them know like a lot of the issues, like who to contact about if the garbage is piling up, or how to first recognize your alderman, how to, you know, identify him, locate him, and then make meetings with him, so he can come out and check the neighborhood. So it was a lot of informing, again, the importance of local elections, because once you are explaining how the local elections tie into the daily life, then that kind of buys people more in. Because it's like if you have a whole block of persons who is upset at their older person, but they didn't, I guess they didn't know that they could hold him accountable or make these meetings with him to come out and have this report with him to get things lifted up. And so when they learn that and everything, I think it gives the engagement level a boost, because now it's taken away from the 4 years of us making sure we're involved to now, okay, this person may be up next year, or they got an election coming up, or, you know, things like that. So that's kind of how we do that. And then also with the issues, we knock and talk about the issues and how we can fix them. So we're kind of like plug them in. So like if there's any meetings or town halls or anything happening related to those issues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would argue, admittedly, that the local elections are even more important than the presidential election when it comes to people's daily lives and what they need. Okay, so I'm going to piggyback on what Keisha said, because we all know that there's a huge problem if you fool around and the garbage doesn't get picked up in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. And in some areas, it's rat infestation, which causes diseases. That is huge. I know when I come home at night, I have a real problem if my street lights are not on. That only happens periodically, but I have driven through neighborhoods that I don't even like driving through because the street lights are not on. Okay. And recently, in the last couple of days, I was driving through an area because of the road construction and the detour. And you're talking about, I went through Pothole City.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, why aren't these people calling DPW, the Department of Public Works, and asking them to come and fill these potholes? And if in fact they don't come, then you definitely call your alderman's or alderwoman's office and say, hey, I live at 35th and where was I? 35th and Center. The block actually north of Center. How do I get these potholes filled? I was just like amazed at how those streets look. And then even to the point where people need to call, I'm like ready to call the mayor's office and tell them, you know what, I understand that you all are trying to address reckless driving, but you all have absolutely messed up some of these streets in Milwaukee with these cement bumps that you have put out. And if you want to know exactly what I'm talking about or have an idea, start from 6th or 6th and North Avenue, 7th and North Avenue, and go down 6th Street down to as if you were go south as if you were heading to 574, and just take a look at what they did to 6th Street.
Yeah.
It is awful.
Yeah.
And it makes it more difficult. I know when I'm traveling and I'm trying to go to the Washington Park Senior Center and I'm heading east on Lisbon, right there at Sherman and Lisbon. I'm heading east and then I roll around that street and it's like, excuse me, was all of this necessary? So this is taxpayer dollars where instead of doing all of those bump outs, they should be fixing these roads, these raggedy roads, filling them and working on them. So that is, again, that's one of the issues associated with your daily living that impacts you daily, that has to do with local elections.
Yeah.
When I go walking in the park, I go walk Deneen Park. I live near there. When that lagoon is awful, that's about calling your county supervisor to say, hey, Why isn't the grass cut in our park? Because when I go down by the Zablocki Library, that's not an issue when I'm riding past that park. That's the Zablocki Library is located on 35th in Oklahoma. I see the grass manicured real nicely. Why isn't that grass manicured like that, or even just cut in my neighborhood? That has to do with the parks, the county system, and your supervisor. And then for those who are dependent upon the bus system, you have got to call you've got to contact your county supervisor if you have an issue and they're talking about decreasing your route, or if your route is constantly late. That's who you want to call so that they can address it with the county transit system. So again, I would argue that yes, we know how critically important the presidential election is, but that local election, that's the one that daily impacts your life. Because even if you want some city services, or if you want state services, for a number of people who have, for example, people that are housed in a correctional institution, you need to have some questions, you need some answers, you need to call the state and talk to somebody in the Department of Corrections that's where you address your questions to. So again, my point here is all about these local elections, and it's about us educating people on how people just need to know. They need to know, okay, how does this impact my daily life? Because I remember like it was yesterday when I was out doing doors, and I had a number of people tell me they vote in the presidential election. And my eyes just went like, you have got to be kidding. But again, we just have to do a better job of making sure that we let people know that, and when they understand, they get it. It's just a matter of we've got to explain it better. And there are a number of Republican forces out here that don't want us to educate our people because they don't want them voting. Okay. So yeah, that's something we have to work on. So that's what I needed to say.
And I want to actually, yes, I totally agree. I think those are all my sentiments. And in regards to the MPS. And that was the case with making sure we go door to door and break down and inform people about the MPS and the effects of it, because a lot of people in those communities, they were under the impression that it was just like completely wiped them out. And we had to like kind of give we invited someone from MPS, being from MPS, to kind of like break it down to the ambassadors so they can better break it down to folks on the doors, the importance of this referendum. And so it's local elections, as Barbara said, because if we didn't do that and a lot of people didn't know, I think the majority vote would have been vote no, because a lot of people were not informed about it. So just being able to go door to door, let people know how these local elections matter to you more than none, and then just informing and educating people.
And you're absolutely right, Keisha. It's like people, like the first two questions on the ballot, the answer should have been no to both of them. But people, it sounded like it was a good idea, so people voted yes. And now, county clerks throughout the state are going to have an issue with trying to get people to work. And what do you do? What does that mean in their county, not just their county, in their cities? People don't know how that's going to impact them. And it was the wording, the way that referendum was worded.
Which seems like just a tiresome but often attempt we always see from Republicans when they want the very same people that they want to, vote the way they want them to vote. They attempt to confuse them in order to have their way.
So we all know that.
So Peggy, the league did urge people to vote no on the referendum. What do we do now that it passed? What are the next steps?
Good question, Pat. I don't know. We and the league and the coalition of voting rights groups were all pushing out the vote no ×2.
Yeah,
Before that. Frankly, I was surprised it was as close as it was, because as
Mhm.
Barbara just said, they sound reasonable. You know, if you read them, you'd think, well, what's the problem here? And yet, I talked to friends who I sent emails about vote no on those, and one friend in particular said, well, I already voted, but I voted no. And I said, I'm wondering why, because I would have been suspicious, because
Yeah.
I know how these things are written to be confusing, and so I would have been wondering, something sounds fishy, you know, and I would have looked into it.
Mhm.
Well, she said she felt the same, that
Ah,
she read it, it sounded like this is reasonable, so there must be something more to the story. And
yeah,
so she looked into it, but you know, a lot of people don't. I don't know where you go from here.
yeah.
Um,
I guess we're
yeah.
gonna have to find a way to fundraise to support local elections. Now, my understanding is one reason um, during COVID, I think there was a time, and Peggy, you could correct me, that there were only 5 voting sites in Milwaukee during COVID. And
That
I think
first
Keisha
spring
nodding.
election, remember the April election in 2020? I
Yeah,
don't think we knew until just beforehand whether or not that election was gonna happen. Remember
wow.
that? What a
You know
mess.
what? There were 6. And I was so angry with Tom Barrett because he didn't have to do that. No, there were 6 locations. And when you talk about a city, Madison, that has less than half of a population than we do, they had a lot more polling sites available. So that, I blame Tom Barrett for that one, big time, because that was one of those where, quite frankly, and I'm going to give my opinion, and I have no problems giving it. Lena Taylor was running against Tom, and it would have been extremely embarrassing to Tom had Lena beat him. And so if you pull around and you only open up 6 polling sites, yes, people are going to be discouraged because they don't want to wait in those long lines.
Yeah,
I know I was in the line at Washington High School, and that line wrapped all around the corner. And I'm standing up, I'm a senior citizen, until finally somebody said, well, the senior citizens, you want to come through this door right here, come follow me. And by that time I had already wrapped around a corner. So yeah, that could have been done a lot better than it was. So, but I personally blame Tom Barrett for that, because it didn't have to go down to 6. You know, if anything, they should have had 6 on the north side, 6 on the east side, six on the west side. That could have been done like that easily, because what I would suggest that you do is take a look. Don't take my word for it. Go back and Google and see how many polling sites Madison had open, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very discouraging. So Anne, we welcome you back. It looks like you're in your office now. How about other voices? Anyone else have a question? We're getting near the announcement time, but
Can you hear me?
yes.
Oh, okay. This is Meg Gleason. I don't know what happened to my picture.
Mhm.
In terms of the referendum, which I don't think was advertised well enough so that people understood what they were voting for.
Right.
So I am on this neighborhood site where people voice their opinions, and there were people that were very upset because they were having to vote in parks, and they didn't feel like there was adequate shelter so I just went on and I said, do you understand how important local elections are? The president can't change where you vote, but they can, if they don't have the resources to support poll workers, or you somehow are not keeping poll workers safe from comments, or even poll observers, I think are sometimes harassed for trying to do simple things like pick something up and hand it back to somebody who dropped something, then you aren't going to have an easy way for people to vote, and then you've lost an opportunity. So yeah, when there are referendums, I don't know, we all need to do more to let people know what that actually could mean.
Yep. Yep.
But I appreciate everybody realizing that. And also, you know, the local people who are running, instead of always having fundraisers, which some of us can't support at the level they'd like, as many meet and greets as possible, I think, helps people be able to tell people what their issues are.
Thank you, Meg.
Sure.
Keisha, we'll start soon doing our announcements of other things coming up with the League of Women Voters. Your baby is beautiful, Meg. Oh yeah, nice and peaceful. So we have just a few minutes to thank you and then to go into league announcements. But Keisha, I know you're doing a special thing. Are you out of state? Do you want to tell us what you're up to today?
Yes, so we're out of state. We are at a FCCP convening in Phoenix, and so it's just like a bunch of meetings with different affiliates and local organizations. Just but it's also like a funder event too. So,
Okay, great. Great.
yeah.
How do you fund BLOC?
So we have funders, grants. We are a C3C4 organization, and donations. Yeah.
Okay.
And our Tides Advocacy is our fiscal sponsor.
Excellent. Great. So I want to welcome Liddy. And Liddy is the co-chair for the membership committee. So we've been working intentionally to diversify the league. I think Mary Ellen can tell us a little more about that. I'm not sure, but our average age of league members might be about 69 or 70. And we are working to tell young people, hey, the League of Women Voters is still around and going strong, and you could join us. So we're always promoting that opportunity. I think Lydia is going to join us. She's unmuted. Lydia, welcome. I've tried to, this is being recorded. We knew we had technical problems, so I want to apologize for that. But we have some notes in the chat too, some of what Keisha has shared with us about BLOC. And do you want to add anything about the issue of local elections or why it matters to get out the vote? Keisha and her ambassadors came to a meeting in Madison, an advocacy day, to really focus on voter choices, climate voices. Voter choices, climate voices. But does any of that lead you to question Keisha before we say goodbye to her? She's off to other meetings too. Okay. All right. Barbara Rasmussen, any comments from you? I think I just drove her off the Zoom. Okay, I don't want to embarrass people. Okay, again, I want to thank you, Keisha, for your time and the fabulous work you're doing. I will be one of your supporters for BLOC. And I always knew you had a great reputation, but it was great to hear the details of how each one reaches one, how the ambassadors sometimes have 200 contacts, that you're always working the doors in the 06, and you invite political leaders to be quiet members and listen to people when they show up, and to be a listening presence, which many of us, especially the extroverts, have a hard time managing. But Keisha, I'm really grateful that I met you. I was happy to see the good work going on in Madison. And
Thank you.
yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no. Final
Pat,
comment. Yeah,
Pat,
yeah,
I mean,
Barbara.
excuse me, I make a correction.
Yeah,
Looking at the article from April 9th, 2020,
yes,
it says, the headline says, what we know so far about why Milwaukee only had 5 voting sites for
yeah.
Tuesday's election, while Madison had 66.
Whoa.
Yes. Whew.
Oh,
Yeah.
I wanted to make that correction here
yeah.
and check on that and
It
be
is
able to
duly
share that
noted.
information, be able to share that information with you all.
Yeah,
Well,
thank you,
thank
Barbara.
you. Thank you all for having me.
You're
And then
welcome.
I will keep in touch. Like I know we do a lot of work. Also, Angela has a good relationship with League of Women Voters. And I also want to say that your emails are very informative, and I like how you all break things down. And also that, like, hopefully in the future that we can kind of like collab to see how we can work to bring information to voters, like just like simplify it a little bit so we all can understand why we all should be involved.
Keisha,
Yeah.
thank you. And
All
thank your
right.
ambassadors. I hope you have a great experience in
Yeah.
Arizona.
Thank you. Talk soon.
Okay. And so again, Anne is new to her position. And Anne, can you tell us what are you looking forward to?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Um, so my main sort of platform that I ran on and that I truly believe in as coming to this work from as a social justice and environmental advocate is work in Milwaukee County on climate and equity. And there was that joint task force. I don't know if anybody participated in some of the listening sessions. And so now that is diverging a little bit at the city and the county levels, but going into strategic action, planning and action phases. So I really want to support that work around climate, especially because as we know in Milwaukee, sometimes communities are disproportionately affected. So the equity piece is extremely important as we approach that work. I've also come to this through housing advocacy. Bay Bridge, the social justice group that I co-founded, is a member of the Redress Roundtable, which has been in Milwaukee for a little over 2 years now. And it looks to redress segregation. It's inspired by the Color of Law book by Richard Rothstein, but it's coalition building here in Milwaukee. And one of our first asks was for Milwaukee County to form a housing committee to examine the myriad of housing issues in Milwaukee, like displacement and gentrification, lead paint, which gets into also the environmental realm, lead pipes, evictions, homelessness. You know, there's so many. We just have a really tight housing market. And now we were finally granted that county committee, and it's going to be a joint committee between the county and the city. So hopefully even more powerful in bringing folks together who both have knowledge in governmental work, but also lived experience, so that we are being that listening voice of governance. So I appreciated that comment because I think there can sometimes be good intentions at all different levels, but if we're not listening properly and also going to where people are and not always expecting them to come to us, we're going to have less than desirable outcomes. So it's also building those relationships so that people can be very candid also in saying, like, you might have meant this, but here's what is really happening. So we just have to keep that dialogue going and build that trust so that we can really solve some of these big problems and really, you know, lean into them. I'm not afraid of taking on big things. So sorry, that was already too much talking.
No, it was great. We're just so happy. We're always encouraging women to run. And one of the things we notice that is if a person doesn't get elected the first time, a woman is less likely to run again, where a man might not get elected, but he's willing to get right back in there and run again. And so it's wonderful to see the results of the Milwaukee County elections, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Peggy, could you comment on what we're doing now around the climate and the concerns and some of the, I don't think we're going to call it a public issues forum, but some things are coming up next Saturday and next Sunday. Could you tell us a little bit about what is happening with the league for that one? Or Mary Ellen? Go ahead, Peggy.
Well, all I know is what was submitted to our update newsletter on it. So, yeah, I can't really tell you. They're hosting, our Natural Resources Committee is hosting 2 meetings. And I think they're sort of planning sessions. Jump in, somebody, if you know. I don't know if Renee or Mary Ellen are on that
Right,
committee.
to gauge interest and to pull more people in because they want to form a kind of, not kind of an observer corps, but that's the wrong word.
They're called,
Um,
sorry, I'm
Oh,
was
thanks, Maddie. Yeah.
it's called the Climate Action Group, so it's actually going to be a separate group from the other ones. They're going to be more active. They want to make more action in climate change. I'm not 1,000% positive on all of it, but they just want to get people that know they want to actually get out there and not just, they want to be more involved in actively doing stuff instead of maybe just campaigns and stuff like online.
So
Right.
one of the events is Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, they're doing 2 separate ones.
Right.
One's April 20th. I'm actually working on the
Mhm.
graphic. April 20th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then the other one is Sunday, the 21st from 1 p.m. until 3 p.m. here at the summit place where the league meets in the.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maddie.
Yeah, no problem.
And I don't have our address memorized, but I'm putting it in the notes. I know we're Washington, like 67 something Washington.
6737 West Washington Street.
in
West
West
Washington.
Dallas.
Yep. Okay, good. And then another one we're having is at the Wauwatosa Library, and that is also on Sunday afternoon. And that was with Mary Sussman, working with diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it's similar and it's important. And then Peggy, do you want to comment on the reproductive rights on May 4th?
Yeah, that one's a partnership with Planned Parenthood, and it's a workshop on having difficult conversations talking about reproductive rights issues, but they are saying that the skills learned at that are translatable to any difficult conversations people need to have. So if you're more involved in other issues than reproductive rights, it would still be a helpful thing to attend.
Mm-hmm. And that one we would ask you to register using our website. So we want to have enough people that Planned Parenthood feels comfortable with the group. And we don't want people coming in partway through it because we want to have the full 2 hours with you. That would be the in-person one on Saturday, and that's 10 till noon. And again, that's at the same office at Summit Place. Any other league announcements or issues that people want to raise of things happening in the community? Yeah, Renee.
Well, let's mention our dinner.
Yes.
Annual dinner.
Yes. Yes.
23rd. And then I'm going to go for the first time to the Aging Advocacy Day in Madison. And I believe that's May 14th. I don't have my calendar in front of me and I couldn't get to it if I wanted to. Is anyone else going to the Aging Advocacy Day?
I don't see any
Okay.
information, but Maddie, are you still with us to give us the information about our annual meeting? I know it's on Thursday. I know it's May 25th.
23rd.
May 23rd.
It is
At Alioto's.
Alioto's. Hold on, I'm currently in the
Starts
middle.
at 5 o'clock.
5
Thank you,
o'clock.
Mary Ellen.
And you do have to register for it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's $35. And there's gonna be silent auction of items.
Mhm.
Oh yes, May 23rd, 5 p.m. Cocktail hour, silent auction, a film showing
Okay.
of The Most Dangerous Woman, the Women of the West. And
Barbara
then-
told, I need to see you there. Is she gonna be there? Where you at, Barb?
I'm right here.
You think you'll make it to the dinner?
Let me write that date down again.
Okay, May 23rd.
So what are the hours again?
And where is it? And the cost?
It's $35 and we're meeting at, I don't know the location. I've never been before.
Theodos.
Alligator?
It's
You
in
know where
the
Aliotos
on
is.
Mayfair Road in Wauwatosa.
What's the name
Mayfair
of
Road
it?
in Burleigh.
Aliotos, Barbara.
Oh, okay, I know where Aliotos is.
Yeah.
Do I have Barbara's email? I can send her the information. I
Yeah,
don't know
please,
if I have Barbara's email though.
It's
'cause you gotta register.
BT as in Tom, OLES as in Sam, at wi.rr.com.
BTOLES@wi.rr.com. Okay. I'll make
Yeah.
sure you get that.
Thank you.
So some of you may not know, but Barbara is a former president of the League of Women Voters and also served many years in the state legislature. So she's another experienced person, and I know her through MATC and our union work together. Any other announcements? Well, then, thank you everyone for gathering. As you know, we changed from our monthly meetings to quarterly. And I will do a better job of making sure we get the message. I'm always open. We follow the lead of people most impacted by injustice and racial inequities. So if you have suggestions, just reach out to me and I will put my phone number in there. So it's 414-630-1978. And my daughter found a way to make it though I don't get any phone calls unless you're in my contact list. But if you leave me a message, I'm always going to return your call. So final appreciation of being together today.
Well,
I
thank
just
you.
want to say
you.
thank you to be here, be able to attend today, Pat.
Glad to have you, Barbara. So thank you, everyone. Let's stay strong and we will together move forward with hope. And feel free to join the league or to recruit people to join the league. Right, Liddy? Okay,
Thanks, Pat.
a pleasure, everyone. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
A special shout out to Matthew and Mary Ellen for helping this program come out online.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks, Maddie. Thanks, Liddy. Meg, Renee, good to see you and your beautiful grandchild.
18 months any day now.
Woohoo! It's fun. He's gorgeous.